All right, and it looks like we are ready to begin. Coach Kelly, if you are.
Yep, I'm all set.
Perfect. Well, we will start off today with Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Eric.
I got a two-parter. Unfortunately, it's kind of both related to COVID. The first part of it's kind of the more medical part of it. As you've had quite a chunk of players test positive, as they come out of isolation, do you treat them as if they're immune and not able to transmit the disease anymore for, let's say, 90 days? The second part of it is when you have a player like Clarence Lewis who steps up, and you have a guy like Tariq Bracy who graded out well when he was playing, how do you kind of reconcile, or how does the dynamic of that competition change maybe?
Okay, well, let's take a shot at the first question. The first one relative to somebody coming out of isolation with COVID. They're still going to be following the same protocols as everybody else relative to masks, social distancing. They won't test for at least 90 days, so they no longer will test. But we do use them in a manner that, for example, within a locker room setting, they would be sitting next to somebody that is non-COVID, because certainly we're going to, look at the potential positives on the back end of this, that they've already gone through the virus and are not going to be spreading it to somebody that does not have COVID. So they need to continue to follow the same protocols as everybody else, other than they won't be tested, and that we will utilize the fact that they have already had the virus. The virus now is not infectious, and we will place them in a position where they can help us, if you will, moving forward. As it relates to competition, when somebody comes out of either quarantine or isolation, and isolation is different than quarantine, because after 7 days, there is a modified quarantine where guys can be conditioning. When you come out of isolation, you haven't worked out. So after you've gone through your cardio and your workup for EKGs and blood workup, once you're cleared, you're brought back into physical activity at different levels. For example, Clarence was at 50%, then at 75%. If somebody can make up the ground and still be competitive in practice, we're going to allow him to still compete for playing time. And if they're that good of a player, we're not going to hold them back if the time away has not held them back. I know that sounds like a long answer, but if you're that good of a player and you can go through having very mild symptoms and then go through that protocol of 50, 75, and still at the end of the day be as good, if not better, then you're going to see yourself playing on Saturday.
All right, and we will move to Lou Samoji.
Good afternoon, Coach. Noticed on this week's depth chart, and I don't know whether you assemble it or Katie or so, that Jack Kaiser wasn't on the 2 deep in spite of receiving the game ball in the last contest. Is that a case of availability or just Shane and Marist at a higher performance level right now?
Availability. Him and Myron won't be available.
We will move next to Patrick Engel.
Hey, Brian, when we talked to Braden Lindsay the other day, he discussed one of the reasons for his number change is that he's really felt less like a track star playing football and more like a complete receiver. In training camp or this season or even beyond, what are the things that you've noticed that have kind of illustrated that transition?
Well, that he's thinking about it. I think you have to be aware of that before you can actually be that. And what I'm proud of Braden is that he has embraced the fact that he wants to be more than just a guy that gets handoff sweeps. You know, he wants all of the complete passing tree. He wants to run every route that we have, and he's working towards that. And I give him a great deal of credit for wanting to be that complete receiver. He's not there yet, and he knows that, but he is working towards that. And to have that kind of mindset that he wants to be that complete player, that's who I want to coach. I mean, we all want to coach guys that are aware of where they want to go and how to get there. And, you know, since he's, you know, gone through, you know, the soft tissue injury, he's been great in his work ethic to get to that end of being a complete receiver. So it's something that we love working with guys that have that kind of mindset.
We'll go next to Tim O'Malley.
Hey, Coach, just considering how well the running backs played in separate games, but collectively as a unit, is it realistic you can use them all in one game? I know 5's a lot with one football and about 70 snaps, but they seem to have the various skill sets that can help you weekly, not just over the course of the year.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Tim, I don't know that you ever, you know, kind of try to break it down and say, okay, these guys are going to get these carries when we're dealing with 5, but they do have a sense of complementing each other well at different times in the game, and the workload that they're sharing, you know, where we're committed to running the ball with a physicality, but also we need guys that can catch the ball coming out of the backfield. I think having that kind of versatile, you know, running attack has allowed us to go deep on the running back side of things. So we're committed to all of those guys and expect to see them all touch the football. But I do believe that the games will still dictate how those carries pan out. We were in a pretty clean situation against South Florida where they all were able to get, you know, quite a bit of carries. We'll see how that continues to go moving forward. But all of them do complement each other very, very well.
We'll go next to Pete Sampson.
Brian, looking over some of the Pro Football Focus grades relative to your offensive line, it's not that they have them ranked number 1. It's by a wide margin. And I was curious where or if you sort of see that level of production from that group so far, where it's not just playing well, it's playing exceptionally well.
It's kind of what I've been saying really since preseason camp, is that I don't know that there's one guy that you would say, you know, he is the best player in the country by far, but as a unit, the 5 of those guys together, it's, you know, the sum of the parts, right? It's all of those guys working together. They've logged so many hours together that they pick up for each other so well, and they communicate so well. And I think that that's what we're talking about here. 5 guys working together. There's not a better unit in the country where all 5 work as well together. And I think that that's what we're seeing here more than anything else, is the unit and how that unit is, look, they do everything together. I mean, and that's what we're seeing in terms of production on the field.
We'll go next to Angelo DiCarlo.
You must be changing diapers already.
We will circle back with him, but if anyone else does have a question, please use the raise hand function. We will circle back with loose emoji.
Earlier in the week, you mentioned that Kevin Austin would be on more of a modified plan. As the week has progressed, do you still envision him kind of in that 15 to 20 snap range on Saturday?
Yeah, he's going to play, and he's had a good week. No setbacks, and he can certainly help us. We want to be careful. He's only going to be about 11 weeks post, so not that we're putting him in a vulnerable position, but we've got to be careful. He hasn't played. He hasn't played, full speed football in a long, long time. So we want to be. I think we want to err on caution, Lou, in terms of his snaps this week, and then we'll go from there.
And it looks like we do have Angelo DiCarlo now. But I believe you are on mute, Angelo. Okay, then we will end today with Len Clark.
Brian, you mentioned on Monday this was the first time that you've ever gone 2 weeks in season without playing a game. What's the biggest takeaway, and is this something that you can implement moving forward in your game preparation?
That's a good question. I'm not certain that I want to implement it in my game preparation moving forward in terms of having 2 weeks off, because it's such a, it's a fine balance between trying to do too much leading into the game versus, taking it as a normal, normal week of preparation. We practiced on a Sunday and then came back and obviously added to that week, this week. So, look, at the end of the day, when you don't play for a couple of weeks, you worry about timing, execution, things of that nature. And I'm less concerned about it as we've gone through the week, because we've gotten our legs back and we've gotten back into a football kind of, routine. But I think earlier in the week, when I was asked the question, there was a lot of, uncertainty because I hadn't done it before. But as I've looked back on it now, I think we've taken the right approach in terms of balancing this off and not doing too much with our guys, but doing enough off the field as well with film study and weight training, that we haven't put our kids in a position where they're going to have dead legs when we go out on the field on Saturday.
All right. And with that, we will wrap it up today. Thank you very much, Coach.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.